Hello and welcome to another edition of the Science Talks at UNU-EHS. This time we are doing this live. Thank you for joining us. We're here at COP16 in Riyadh. I'm Austin. I'm with the communications team at UNU-EHS, and I'm joined by Dr. Zita Sebesvari, Deputy Director at UNU-EHS, and we're here to talk a little bit about the science policy agenda and linking it to land, climate, and biodiversity actions. So, Zita, my first question for you is, what are the current trends in land degradation and in land restoration?
Thank you so much. So we are losing definitely more healthy and productive land annually than we restore. Just between 2015 and 2019, every year around twice the size of Greenland was lost as healthy and productive land, so more than 100 million hectare. At the same time, there are huge restoration efforts ongoing, but the 10 flagship projects, which have been declared as flagship projects under the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration, together aim to restore 68 million hectare of land. So you can see then the relation annually 100,000 and the flagship initiatives doing 68 million hectare.
So sort of to follow up on this first question, what are some of the limitations to land restoration approaches?
Well, what I would like to highlight, because that was, so to say, today's topic, is integration or not sufficient grade of integration. So oftentimes land degradation is happening with the goal land degradation in mind only, without considering biodiversity or climate change adaptation as joint goals. This can have very harmful consequences. So there are scientific studies showing that forest-based restoration, for example, in Africa, harming water availability, harming biodiversity, leading to the increased number of alien species, so to say, if not combined with biodiversity goals.
Just before I ask my next question, I just want to remind anybody in the audience on this live that if you have any questions, just put them in the comments, and we'll try and answer them at the end of this session. So my next question to you then is, how can science push us past some of these limitations, and how can perhaps science better connect climate, land, and biodiversity actions?
Maybe I would give a practical example and then, so to say, scale up from there. So if we are talking about mangrove forest restoration, oftentimes it has been done with monocultures. That means that with one species which is fast growing and which has a survival rate after plantation, which is sufficiently high, so to say. The disadvantage is that this monoculture forest doesn't support biodiversity goals, and it's also less resilient. So in light of coastal storms, coastal erosion, provides less protection to people, to communities behind the mangroves. If we would want to do this differently, we need to pay attention to a biodiverse mangrove restoration. This means maintaining forest schools. This means maintaining seed banks where we can deploy, so to say, different kind of mangroves which has been abundant in those coastal areas. So from this, we are learning that aligning for different goals for example, afforestation, land restoration, biodiversity, and also disaster risk reduction, we have to consider these goals from the onset, right from the planning stage. And this means extra work, this means extra investment, but it's worthwhile. We have many studies showing the benefits of aligning these goals and working for synergies.
Wow. So then my last question actually builds off of what you did here today at COP16. You participated in an event that was a high-level dialogue that was bringing together science and sort of policy. There was delegations, for instance, in the audience, and what you discussed in the event itself. The purpose was to also bring this back sort of into the negotiations or the delegations in the work that they're doing here in that sort of sphere. So I was wondering if this sort of model, bringing together science and policy in this sort of way at these conferences, is a good model to sort of bridge that science and policy gap.
Well, such an event cannot bridge the gap itself, but it can raise awareness for the gap and also bring together the important players, so to say, in this field to align and to work together to close that gap. Today's high-level interactive dialogue had two panels, and the first one was focusing on science, science gaps and science recommendations for upscaling land restoration. And one of the points the panel came up with is that there is not enough cooperation, alignment across the Rio Convention. So when we are looking into biodiversity, climate change, land restoration, and that there is no appropriate mechanism and platform where this could be better brought together. So the panel suggested that it would be really helpful if a so-called global science policy alliance for land could be established. This would be something to be scoped in the coming months, and this could help to bridge this gap, and this could help, so to say, to work science-based towards joint goals. To bring back this a little bit to our own institute, this is something we are working on since many years now. The institute has a division called EVEST, Environmental Vulnerability and Ecosystem Services. And particularly this division is working on alignment between these different agendas and how can we plan better, how can we also monitor better how implementation is happening and how we are harvesting these synergies.
Great, thank you. I think with this, we'll end the discussion. We appreciate you joining us online, and Zita, I thank you for your time. It's a pleasure speaking with you, and we look forward to bringing you more science talks in the future. Thank you.